Thank you, Chairman, so much. I appreciate your flexibility on that. First, would ask unanimous consent to submit for the record a letter from the Illinois Chamber of Commerce in opposition to the rule, gravely concerned about what they talk about would significantly add to the already unprecedented level of uncertainty our members face from new rules and regulations. So I'd ask
UC requested. Any objections? So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Administrator, for being here today. It really is crucial that the EPA regulations are based on science. So I appreciate you being here so that I can learn and try and explain to my constituents the process that you all go through before drafting and finalizing new rules and regulations. My concerns will deal directly with the Scientific Advisory Board. So the first thing I will ask, and I hope this will be a simple yes answer, but does EPA hold the findings of its Scientific Advisory Board in high esteem?
Extreme high esteem.
This is certainly good to hear, because science should always be the backbone of what you are doing at EPA, something your administrator frequently cites and that we normally hear when receiving testimony from your agency before this committee. Interestingly enough, it was not in your 10-page written testimony here today. I understand that a draft rule is just that, a draft. But you have said throughout your testimony that this rule is something that is supposed to bring clarity to the jurisdiction that the agency already has. Unfortunately, as we can see from discussion today, this rule is not very clear, and my constituents have a number of questions about how it will be affecting them. In the draft rule, does EPA define what a shallow subsurface hydrological connection is? Is this something you leave to further examination of the literature, or is it expressly defined in the rule? And at what depth does water below the surface cease to be shallow subsurface and turn into groundwater?
The use of the shallow subsurface water, I think I'm going to say I think.
Does it define? My question was, does the EPA define what shallow subsurface hydrological connection is, or is that left to further examination of the literature, or is it expressly defined in the rule?
It's something that the Science Advisory Board is looking at. It's something that they gave us some advice on in their draft statement. But I want to point out, and I want to be really clear, groundwater is not covered by this rule.
So this is not expressly defined in the rule, and the depth where water ceases to be shallow surface and turn into groundwater is not defined. So that is, although you're saying it is not under the rule, the fact is it's not defined of when it turns into groundwater and therefore does fit under the rule. Let me keep moving because my time's going to go away. In comments on the connectivity report, the Scientific Advisory Board recommended EPA consider where along a gradient of connectivity groundwater connections are of sufficient magnitude to impact the integrity of downstream waters. The Scientific Advisory Board stated this represents an important research need for EPA. Considering this is still an active research need and the connectivity report is being used by EPA to support the proposed rule, how does EPA justify the use of shallow subsurface groundwater connectivity to determine jurisdiction?
We use the rule, and I think there are a number of different pieces of what you just suggested there, but the rule uses the connection with subsurface shallow groundwater as a way to determine adjacency. Not the groundwater, I want to be clear, whether it's shallow, deep, anywhere, is not covered by this rule. It's just a hydrologic tool.
See, the problem is it's unclear when it goes from one to the other, and that's, if you're having trouble explaining it to us, guess what my constituents are having trouble doing?
They're having great difficulty. It's not,
and that's why we're hearing
groundwater is not covered by the rule.
But it slips into it. That's what they're saying, is that it becomes, it's undefined of when it moves from shallow subsurface hydrological, shallow subsurface into groundwater. I've got less than a minute. How can a regular citizen be expected to know whether or not they are digging into something that would be groundwater, which would, as you say, is exempt under the rule, or shallow subsurface water where the CWA comes into play? Is it the responsibility of the landowner to review the literature since it's not clearly defined in the rule?
They're both not covered by the rule.
So you're saying shallow subsurface water is not covered under the rule?
Correct. It is used as a hydrologic tool for field people to determine the adjacency of a
and
water.
The shallow subsurface hydrological connection.
That's the hydrologic that's looked at to see whether the surface water feature might be adjacent to a traditionally navigable water.
The message I get out
groundwater is not jurisdictional.
this is less clear to me than when I walked in here. I think it is probably the same for my constituents. Huge concern. I hope, if nothing else, you get the fact that we're concerned about this. There's already such a lack of clarity in so many of the rulemaking. This one, probably more than anything else, we're hearing huge concern from business, from farmers. I've got a great business community. I've got a great agriculture community in my district. They just don't understand this, and they're scared to death. We need clarity. We need to take a step back. With that, Chairman, thank you so much for your indulgence, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Hultgren.